Here, there it is. Hi, chat. How we doing on this fine first day of the month? First day of the month, first day of the week. We starting here the grind set, and because it is such a special day, I, thanks to the folks over at Sega, I mean official Sega, what do you call it? What's their ad? Like Sega official on Twitter. No, yeah, Sega. Thanks so much again to Sega here. I didn't know it was me that was going to get it. So that means probably other people will also get it, but they told me I could just play this right now, right here. Like I don't have like all the game, but I do have like exclusive preview. I can show you the generations part of Sonic X Shadow Generation. Told me I can show that mostly. So we just be waiting as always, chat on the stream. On Twitter, you can retweet it, put all this. So, without further ado, I think let me wait.
Sega.
Okay, let's see if there's anything I can show right now. Wait, did they tell me I can show that? I know. Okay, so let me shut up the YouTube. Game audio should be good enough, and I think let me put a capture here. There it is. There's Shadow. There's Shadow. I'm not going to play the classic stages because they're basically the same. I tried them a little bit. Like they look a little different. Some camera angles here and there are like changed from the original. You wouldn't probably notice. But yeah, Green Hill. I think we are ready to start. So this is your exclusive preview of Sonic X Shadow Generations. Let's start. Wrong button.
Weekend at a campsite? Not exactly what Sonic had in mind, but it sure was nice having everyone together. The air was fresh and clean, there was plenty of running space, and most important of all, a nice small lake everyone could dive into. This whole thing had been planned up by the crew for a few weeks now, and surprisingly everyone showed up, even Shadow. Power Rouge convinced him to come along as a mystery in and of itself, but as long as he was here, Sonic had someone to poke fun at. Something Knuckles simply couldn't put up with. Of course, there were other advantages of having him around. Apparently he could cook pretty well. Nobody but his Rouge was really sure of that. But after hearing her praise his culinary prowess, he just smirked and crossed his arms. Sonic could even notice a small shade of pink covered his muzzle. Tails and Cream begged him to make something that night until he agreed to it.
So yeah, basically from the start, not really
Other than that,
much changes.
Just
Shadow just has a couple animation. I think some are taken from Frontiers and Horses.
His attention to Shadow, either by
the game seems to be overall
yearning or
same.
curiosity.
Would you know better after what Colors Ultimate was?
Watching the others splash around in the water.
Well, after Colors Ultimate, like I think we just need a basic
Cream.
But I like it. Like this edit animation kinda clean.
His best to keep her company, even if he didn't like children.
I do notice the frame rate being bigger than normal. It's very stable 60 FPS, like even on the PC version.
Doubling
original
over
generation. I think it was pretty rough. We needed like mods and stuff.
Rouge didn't seem to be enjoying herself so much. Sonic snickered to himself after hearing her whining to Knuckles.
Yeah.
This is just not fitting for a lady. Of course, he wasn't about to say anything. Chances are she'd let him have it. So he just went about his business making wise pranks and telling obnoxious jokes to anyone who would listen. He spent a great deal of time practicing the skill that had made him so famous. There really wasn't anything Sonic liked to do more than running, so he'd spend many a moment, jogging around the forested area, looking for something interesting to bring back. On one occasion, he found a rather
Now
large
recording
frog,
starting. No,
which he
I'm
generously
alone.
handed to his best buddy. His eyes grew in amazement at the size of
I
it, and he
mean,
took
do you see
great
anyone?
enjoyment at
Normally,
looking
I
at the
have
stick.
like every time someone joins a
But it
call,
hopped out
I
to
have
of
them
when it
make a
hopped out
little
of reach.
icon.
When it hopped out of reach, Tails chased after it, stumbling over pebbles and such, until the pestered creature finally leaped right into the lake and
Oh,
swam
wait,
away.
realize
Knuckles,
this
everyone's
spin jump?
amazement, spent
I
his
think
time
that's the
wadding around
force
in the
spin
lake.
jump. Look at the way it
He
glows.
was so heavy
Yeah,
looking
that's definitely the force
that
spin
no
jump.
one really expected him to
I
be
like it.
able
You
to
know what?
float,
People were like
much less
talking shit
swim.
about this force
Maybe he'll
spin
speak
jump.
too
I like
soon,
it.
Shadow added, the same twisted smile on his face. Rouge pumped him on the head for that
Oh
idea,
my god, is this the stage
and he
play for
retreated
tears?
back to the campfire in mild aggravation. Sonic sat next to him and boasted as normal.
Crazy.
Trying to get him to lighten up a little, Shadow just stared at him with annoyance and told him to bugger off. Sonic smiled and added, "That wouldn't be very much fun, would it? Come on, Shadow." "Go away," he said calmly. Reaching over to the fire, he dipped into a large kettle and
Oh,
spooned
okay. The water
of the
seems
stew.
way better. Oh,
He was
you see that
making it
sparkle
into,
effect?
he was making it into a
badnik?
small pool.
No,
Sonic
yeah, like
peeked over,
I think the
almost
level design
butting
of
heads
this
with
is wise
Shadow.
is like
"It's pretty
basically the
good,"
same, but
he
in
said
terms of
with a
like
grin
visual
before
effects,
Shadow
this would be
pulled the
much
bowl away
better.
from him. "Get
Oh
your
yeah,
own,"
look
he
at how
said,
these
rubbing
lights
as he
look.
stood up and walked over to
Honestly, these are the
his.
type of changes that I like.
Sonic frowned a
I
little for
don't
himself,
think much about
placing
the
Gunk
art
close to
style
him.
or like the aesthetic.
Just
Just
as they had
improves. I mean, you
already
got more
become dark, the whole
technology, so
group
use
gathered
it.
around and took part in helping themselves to stew
Now, to be
as
fair,
well.
I am, not
Sonic
on the
had
highest
waited for
settings, so
everyone to
probably on
show up
PS5 will
before
look
he
even
started to dig
better.
in, taking a seat between Tails and Knuckles. He nudged Tails
There we go.
playfully and started chatting with him, quickly bringing the whole campsite to life. Shadow sat close by and watched the lot of them talking, his crimson eyes eagerly reflecting the blazing fire.
There
In
we
all of the loud chatter, Sonic gazed up from his spoon and watched it for a moment. His black body seemed to disappear
Woo!
from the surroundings,
Poses
save for
though?
those glowing eyes and few patches of
Gotta do
fur
that
being
rainbow
illuminated
shit
by the
again.
fire.
Damn
Without
it!
much intention,
Okay.
Sonic let out a quiet gasp. Why exactly had he come along anyway? Sonic knew right then and there it was going to be one watery again. But for now, he figured he'd just keep his
Ooh,
eye
wait!
on him for a little longer. Staring back up
Damn,
to those
okay,
eyes,
that's
he
a
was greeted
difference.
by a
They
very
kept the
keen-type dog,
momentum stomp from
little,
Unleash.
he had been
That's weird.
Shadow
Why
narrowed
would
his
they do
eyes and
that?
bent his lips in a
I
most
mean, some
unfriendly
people prefer that.
hedgehog power.
Oh, okay. Wait,
Holding
camera
his
angle.
ears
I
back
mean,
and
again,
putting
guys,
his
this is a
his
a
back at the
preview, so
community.
it's not supposed to represent the actual game.
Hey Sonic, want some more? Knuckles said with a rough pat to the back. Sonic nearly fell
Oh,
forward to the floors, letting out a cough. "Ah, don't be a wuss,
damn!
man."
It seems like they did hear us.
Sonic grinned and
Changing,
smacked him
actually
back
changing the
playfully.
momentum of the
"Sure, why
bells.
not?" Before anyone knew
Frontiers
it,
didn't do that.
time had slipped away and it was very late into the night.
Okay, so there seems to be
Halfway through
some
the
slight
merriment, Shadow
camera
had
changes.
made
Might be
a
polished
nice
up by the
coffee
end of the
close to
game.
Rouge. Maybe
Not
she
an
was the
S-Rank
only
though.
one he felt comfortable with.
And
He
a
still
cringe.
didn't contribute much to the conversation. One by one, the group decided to head up to bed,
Okay, next
until only
stage
Sonic
is
was left
Sky
there.
Sanctuary.
He opted to sleep outside, while everyone else had their own small tent. Although Sonic did wonder where Knuckles had gone. Tails gave him a sleeping
Go.
bag, which he had brought just in case, and he accepted it gratefully. "Thanks, buddy," he said with a smile, ruffling up the top of the fox boy's
This
head.
is like one of my favorite stages. Oh my god, I love Sky
Didn't
Sanctuary.
take
I love
much
every time they
longer
bring it
before
back. I think
everyone
they should bring it
was
back
inside
one
the
more
tent.
time, actually.
Sonic stayed up and stared at the glowing embers slowly fade away. His ears twitched away at a few bugs in the air, but his thoughts were far from that. He stayed up for a few hours, listening intently to the sounds
Oh,
around him.
yeah, I
Deep in
still
thought.
got it.
Sonic knew what he wanted to do.
Oh, I think that animation was from
Perhaps
Sonic
it
Heroes.
was the
Nice
thought of being
reference.
brutally beaten to death by
That
Shadow.
was gotta be made by Ian.
Certainly, if he was caught, that would be the end result. Unless he could run away very, very quickly. Sonic's eyes wandered around to each tent. His ears pointed forward, trying to pick up any noise at all. Then
How
his
long did
gaze
this peak?
rested on
So,
one in
Sega
particular,
only told me that I can
Shadows.
stream only the Sonic Generations part. I
His
cannot do
chin in one
the
hand and sighed
Shadow
quietly.
part. I'm not
Was it
even going to
often he was
mention
ever
how the
close
Shadow
to him,
campaign
much
is
less
called.
spending a night in such close proximity, before he had any idea what was going
Because they
on.
were like, you
Sonic
can
found himself
show,
only inches away from
you can
the
show that
front of
Shadow
the tent.
is indeed playable
Appeared
in the main
inside
story. We don't
small
really care
fun.
about the main story generation because we
Unfortunately, it
didn't
was very
change
hard
much.
to see
That's what
anything
they
in the
told
Dark
me.
Knight.
Maybe
His
by
red
release
flung
it will
out
include
into
something
the air.
different. I mean, I can
No,
already tell some
everything
differences. Like the
He was getting
lining is
colder,
way better.
most likely because of the lake
Probably
water
because
in
of
the air.
Hedgehog Engine 2.
Slipping a hand inside, he slowly peeled back the opening and slipped his head in, peeking around for any sign of movement. There was none. Above him, hanging from the
There we
roof
go.
of the tent, was a lit candle inside of some kind
Okay,
of
this is something I
glass.
love a generation. Like very
Line around it,
linear, but it still has some
some make
really
a barely
cool
audible
like
crackling,
secrets. Like over
cracking
there.
noise doesn't feel much of its
Yeah.
last. Honest. Before it,
Talking about
below it,
talking what about
we got a pretty clear
Shadow?
glimpse of Shadow's body. The Black Hedgehog was lying down on his side, his arms straight out in front of him, his
Oh.
fingers curled up slightly.
Right.
As he slowly inched forward, Sonic could hear his breathing, but just barely. Maybe he
I
could
mean,
stay
you know,
in here a little bit and
probably
leave
confused him
before
with
the sun
another song.
left. He was a
Another
light
level.
sleeper after all.
Cityscape is the one with the guy singing in the background, not this one.
Of course, it couldn't hurt, he thought to himself. Here he was, lying down with his belly pressed right up against the back of the ultimate life form. He could barely think at the moment, with the pounding
there we
in
go.
his head. Every thought in his
Just
mind
hearing
was
voices in my
pleading for
head.
him to
You
just
should
get out
probably
of
go
there.
check that out.
Every move in his body may contradict those thoughts. As a quiet breeze slipped off his gloves,
Man,
Sonic
that's an easy
slowly
S rank.
began to slip his fingers into the warm black fur. His whole body was tingling from excitement. It
Okay,
was
so
like nothing he had ever experienced.
again,
Not even
Shadow
the
is not
dynasty had
playable
come
as classic.
through.
There is no classic Shadow. I'm sorry.
It's quite the same.
I'm here. You know what?
Not,
I've
his
talked to
ankle was
Sega, and I
curled
think that
around
at least they should
that
make
body.
Sonic have the
Yes,
Shadow costume. But no, sadly no classic Shadow. At
Sonic
least for
and
now,
Peach.
this build. So let's
God,
see
he felt good.
Speed
It was
Highway.
saying to himself as he curled his arm around Shadow's body. He figured it would be nearly impossible to snake an
Oh,
arm
this is one of the
underneath
change
Shadow's
songs.
body.
Yeah.
But
So
impossible
if you didn't know, after
easily
you know,
shifted around
aside from the
to
Shadow,
me
like some of them,
comfortably. His other
like some of the
hand
stages
explored
do
the rest
have
of the
change
spell count
songs.
with no intention of skipping
I
any
think they
small
told me
detail
that
of the
like
environment.
in the future there will
Traveled
be
almost
more,
by itself
but for
through
now it's
will,
just a couple.
outside of his body. He
Or
stopped
that might actually
breathing
be
all
for the digital
together
deluxe.
as
Like
the
when you
fingers
get the
gently
digital deluxe,
toward
you gotta
small,
unlock
incredibly
Shadow
soft area
earlier.
where his leg
Can I get this?
after the
Like
neck.
not.
It curved inward into the small gap between his
That's a
thick
nice little
legs.
reference in the menus to the Shadow the Hedgehog. I mean, Black Mesa in the
An
name, so I wasn't surprised
undeniably
about that.
excited shudder escaped his lips as he continued to caress his body. It was a miracle the Black Hedgehog hadn't even made a sound. At this point, though, Sonic could care less. In fact, he found himself becoming braver and more brash with actions each passing second. He gently
Okay, no, I'm not going for bottom
Shadow's
round.
shoulder and neck, closing his
Let's
eyes
see.
into his
So, Nico, are
scent.
you listening to something?
Left out of
Shadow gameplay?
trying to pull him.
I
His
don't know what else you're
whole
talking about.
body tensing him slightly. This creature's scent
Yeah,
was
no Shadow
simply
custom.
wonderful, to say the least.
I'm sorry.
It was a very natural scent, most likely from being out in the open the past
And
morning.
boom.
Even as this was the case,
Also, I
Sonic could
noticed
still
that
pick up
they
some
changed
scent
the
of some
ring.
kind of
They
soap.
don't really have the icon
He was
anymore.
probably passing out.
Does that mean I can
Shadow
lightly
suddenly
dash in
shifted his
every
weight.
single ring?
Only a quiet grunt coming from his throat before settling down again. Surprisingly, Sonic hadn't panicked when it happened. Instead, he took the opportunity to switch his own position. The arm
There's
rested
someone talking in the
underneath,
background.
dark
Is there?
Hedgehog's body slowly curled around his chest.
No, I
Gently
have the
Green-
game, my mic.
Greetings
That's
through
it?
the incredibly soft, white tufts of fur on his
Are
chest.
you not watching anything?
Without
Like
much
what it's
thought,
at?
Sonic ran his tongue along the back of Shadow's shoulder and neck while gently exploring the area between his... I can't read that. He could feel his body tense up, and then something unexpected happened.
Okay,
As
so
soon
this
as
gotta be-
Shadow's gentle,
wait.
almost
I don't
submissive
dare
purr reached the hero's ears, he began to shiver with profound excitement.
Okay,
His
there.
mind raced, thinking about what
Damn,
he
new
was
pattern unlock. I've never been there. I felt
never
the-
his wild moment did he ever expect to hear Shadow purring. That was only meant one thing. What he was doing to him? Sonic panted quickly, sliding
And
his
there-
hand up his body and nibbling on his
Okay,
rough
I got the
end
secret.
abilities. He continued sucking gently on his neck and sifting his hands through his
No,
thick
yeah.
hair.
As sadly,
Sonic
like I
mowed
was very
quietly as he
surprised.
licked Shadow's
You know,
Shadow on
first
the cheek,
Sage, then
partly
actual
wishing he'd wake
Sega.
up. Must be grateful
I'm
that
actually
Hedgehog
really
didn't
happy about
unlock.
this, you know?
Shadow let out a
I
strange
didn't know I would get this far, you know? Everyone talked to me about how like I'm the Kirby guy, you know, how like I'm the Kirby guy, make Kirby videos.
During the next few moments, it
I
seemed like
didn't
he
know
never
Sega was
wanted to
looking in
do
the
it again.
background.
Sonic
How's the
peered
stream
down
going? It's
for
going
his
amazing.
persistent
Hi,
looking
Dex.
and like find that
So far, I'm loving it. Ooh,
I'm not reading
Cityscape
that.
with
End of
Shadow?
chapter 1.
Oh, it looks so cool. Look at that. Oh, look at that little skateboard.
It was still dark out. The endless
When did you
chirping of
get access
crickets
to the
drowned
game?
in the blue
Actually, earlier
surface
today.
as he lay
They
down
were
next to
like,
his
yo,
slumbering ally.
we got an exclusive
Now though,
preview for you.
things were
I think some
Sonic
other
and
people are going to stream it. I
far.
think
In fact,
Mateo
we
was
don't
streaming it. I
get your
think
shadow.
they're streaming it right now. I don't
Was
know.
enough next game.
I'm not watching
And
their
then
stream,
again,
you know,
he
I
also
have to
played
make it
on
my
me,
own.
so soft and
So yeah,
warm.
I think you should be able to watch other videos.
Surprisingly, Shadow had just been sitting there with no more than a
Big
broken
audio levels.
shoulder
I don't know what you're talking about,
or
audio
fur
levels.
every so often.
I feel like
Sonic
that's
sighed,
perfect. Like the game is
pointing
pretty
him
pretty
on
low.
his feet,
I'm
and
pretty
his
high.
fingers brushed down
What the
next
fuck?
door. Shadow growled quietly and stretched out
Sends
his
you
legs
money
upward,
as a
slowly
joke.
curling
Thanks for La
between
Luca.
his bracket.
Yo, hi Crito, thank you so much for the Luca, for the 1,000 pesos. That's a soda, by the way. Yeah, like a soda.
Hoping for no more
Soda
sudden
money.
movements, the hero gently traced his fingers along the length.
No station about everything's loud as
I'm
fuck
not
except
reading
you.
this
I don't
paragraph.
think they
The
really.
Black Hedgehog leaned his head back and moaned, clearly enjoying himself in whatever
I
dream
mean,
was playing
I
out
can lower the
reminding him.
game a little bit.
It wasn't just the sound of his voice, Sonic
Yeah,
thought. No,
there
he
we
could
go.
feel something else that was pretty thick. Between his legs, the blue hedgehog could feel Shadow's tail swishing about frantically, shuddering. He could feel
And
the very tip of that slender
oh, let
feeling
me
the
see
very
this part.
entrance of his body that needed
Oh,
Shadow the most.
cool.
It was started to excite him
Boom,
beyond
boom.
imagining. Some thoughts of intense bout of pleasure
Dude, gotta
filled
say,
his
like
mind.
the 2D
Yet he
sections.
had
Also, yeah, I can do light speed dash anywhere. That's crazy.
might not
Also,
be
that
the
gave me a
best
lot
to
of
try
momentum.
and have a go at it. Like I thought. Oh wait, I read the
Nicky,
one.
Nick is done in the stream. I'm
Sonic
alone. I'm
growled
playing
and
this.
licked the
They told
face
me
of
like,
Shadow's
yeah, you have to
beard,
play alone.
his
You don't
hand
want to distract
movements
from the
only
fact.
becoming more tense with each passing second. Shadow was starting to pan heavily into his pillow now, and it only really made Sonic more determined to draw the whole thing out for as long as possible. The heat radiating from the two bodies was blown away
Okay,
suddenly by a
okay.
long gust of chilly wind. It didn't take long for that tiny candle to fizzle out, leaving the two of
Also,
them
I don't know if you guys
utter
noticed, but there was a
dark.
Big the Cat cameo from from Adventure 2. They added that. That was so cool. It was pretty fast. I don't know if you guys catch there or not.
Not being one to be afraid of the dark, the hero began squeezing harder in his attempt to make Shadow falter. He must have been doing something right.
Can you go
Sonic could
back?
feel
A
the wet in
mystery?
his
No, it's like a one thing deal.
was so hot he could just scream right then and there, but he quickly dismissed the idea.
Okay, we got
Not 2 full seconds
another
following that
thing.
very thought, the urge
I'm still
kind
considered
of
pretty
hurried
simple.
out. It was
Okay,
nearly too
next
much,
up is
and in
a
fact,
hill. Actually,
he hardly noticed
another
Shadow's
stage that Shadow actually
hand
played.
gently tracing its way down his arm. Sonic gasped at the feel of it against his own body. He
See,
wasn't
like that camera
awake,
angle was like straight
but
from
it was like
Heroes.
he knew someone was there.
There we go.
The tail of his hand stopped moving at it. It's begun. Not that Sonic had many complaints about it. However, he wished the thing would stop
Kind of
teasing him
sad that
like
we are
that. It was
like the whole Heroes
pushed
remake thing was
itself
a
inside him
sham,
already.
and all because of
He
bum ass
let out a
people.
tiny growl of
And
frustration,
I just thought
trying
about that
desperately
again.
not
So
to think
sad.
about it anymore. Turning his full attention back to what he was doing, a thought came to
I mean, it
him that
wasn't a
sent
sham. They are
a wide
considering
smile
it.
across his muzzle. The ultimate life form
Oh,
could
oh.
last
If
quite
it's
a
what I
long
like about
time
Generation,
without
Generation
being
actually has some like
on a
platforming.
doing
Like Unleash, I think
in
I don't
it.
know,
It's
between
still a
Unleash and
dark
Generations,
figure
like both
and
boost stages, there are pros and
what are those
cons, but I
buzzing
do
signals
like
on the
the
air as
like
Sonic
platforming
continued
aspect
pumping
from
roughly with his cane?
Generations more.
He was glad it hadn't mended yet. The smell and taste of Shadow's fur was beginning to have a
There we
little
go.
and euphoric effect on the blue hero. He couldn't get enough of it.
Oh,
Sonic slid his hand skillfully back up to the very tip. I'm not
and okay.
Leaning into that perfect body, he began nibbling all around his back and shoulders, no
Let's
longer paying
go.
any
Okay,
attention to
got
his
it.
on.
Whew.
Shadow's
Oh,
body
shadow
suddenly tensed
car.
up,
Shadow
spreading
car,
out
shadow
almost
car, shadow car.
lazily as it
Shadow
happened, and he
motorcycle?
pounded the ground,
Say
rumbling in his throat. There
less.
was a sudden
Oh, I
sensation of
didn't get to
warmth
this
that
part when I
splashed
played.
out into the palm of his hand, sending a
Oh, that's a
shivering
cool
tingling down Sonic's
reference.
spine.
Dude, Ian Flint's back at it again. Yeah, I'll issue this section on that. That.
Sonic, that's Shadow. I'm stupid. Shadow continued laying there, breathing in deeply and purring as he
Oh, look at
exhaled.
that.
Sonic slowly brought into
That's
his
so
face,
cool.
shuddering loudly as
Dude,
he
say
licked
a
away the
code with
mess.
this game.
It wasn't
Oh, I
anything
got
he
a red star
expected.
ring.
Really? It was much better. His ears shot up as he heard Shadow start grumbling. Was he waking up?
Woo!
The sense of excitement
There
and
we go.
satisfaction suddenly made
See, like,
way
for
for
example,
the
this theory section,
Sonic quickly
peak.
reached behind himself,
Oh,
grabbed his
oh.
gloves, and shot out of there quicker than you could recite the meaning of life, and then tripped over a log and fell face first to the dirt.
Oh,
Sonic hardly knew Shadow had indeed woken up then.
oh,
It was morning now,
there
and
we
he
go.
decided it was best if he stayed as far away as possible until
See,
everyone
that
had
was
woken up.
cool. That
He
was cool as
decided
fuck.
rubbed a good deal of water onto his body from the small stream leading into the lake. After the last
Check
night,
this
he
out.
thought it would be a good idea
Yo, my
to make a nice
bestie.
long nap.
Thank you.
Sonic frowned
Thank you,
and
Will.
sat down in the water, his ears drooping back as he heard the group begin to greet each other this morning. Hey, there he is, he heard Knuckles cheer. A few moments later, he turned to face him as he jogged up to him. You're nuts, man. The water must be freezing. Oh, it's really not that bad. Besides, I need to clean off. Just leave it in the dirt, you know? He replied with an awkward smile. Just hurry up, will you? We're gonna have breakfast soon. It's cooking this time. The red kid huffed proudly. Sonic
There we go.
nodded and stood from the water, shaking off a great deal of water
Okay,
before
actually, this boss is to play with
on the
Arms.
rest
I think we can play with Shadow. Can
run,
we?
drying
Oh, yes,
him
we
before
can.
join the crew around the fire again. Then, what the idiot he thought himself to be, almost ran
Oh,
right
dude,
into
the light speed
tree
that
and was
changed
running
so
his
good.
footing.
Really don't know why I didn't play the cutscene. Probably wasn't
Yeah.
implemented yet.
Into the tree
Again,
down.
very early builds. You know, they don't
Sonic
want to
entered
spoil
the
every
tree.
surprise about
Yeah,
the
the
Shadow.
usual scout shadow
part.
he carried
Woo,
around with
that was
him.
close.
Sleep well? I know sleeping out in the open is exactly your stunt. Sonic said with a wink.
Oop.
Shadow stretched his arms and smirked wickedly. Actually, I did sleep pretty well last night, he said quietly. Sonic beamed inside, almost throwing himself to Shadow's arms right in front of everyone. Great, glad you're enjoying yourself, Sonic replied before going around to
There
say
we go.
was the rest of the group. Yana noticed Shadow keeping an eye on him all throughout the breakfast that morning. End of chapter 2.
Boom. God, I
Oh,
second
I'm not
face
reading this
down.
chapter. We're going to chapter 4.
Let's go. Woo!
Both lovers
This
had
part always
been
gets
lying
me
together
out.
for quite a while, kissing and caressing one another before
There we
finding
go.
the strength to get up again. Shadow curled his arms around Sonic's body as he rested on top of him, grinning with satisfaction. Sonic pushed himself up, almost unwillingly,
Okay, next
and
part.
strolled
The
back into the
platforming
kitchen.
one. Let's see if I
to grab
can
his
plot
shoes.
in.
Shadow stretched out on the bench, letting out a long sigh before getting up as well.
Okay.
He called Sonic in and watched silently as he slipped back on his feet. You look a little tired, Sonic grinned as he looked up from
Ooh.
his current task.
Oh,
Shadow stood
yeah,
there quietly
that happens.
with a smirk on his face and opened his mouth to speak, but they were
Shadow
quickly
Light Dash?
interrupted by the boisterous kid who had suddenly barged towards. Hey guys, Knuckles
I
said.
think
How long?
Unleashed
take? Wash the
muted
dish?
color scheme
Hurry up, you
is
said
mimicking
you'd be
Michael Reed's
on a trailer
with
today.
robots.
Tails just itching to get going.
You're, I don't know. I think
Shadow picked up a chair,
I
laying on
think
the
it
floor,
is
and
pretty
sat back with
active, like
the
all
table.
things considered.
Thankfully, they had already finished when the annoying kidman arrived. He mumbled under his breath. Thinking a trail hike would be a waste of time. Then again, he thought this trip would be
There we go.
as well. Sonic stretched down and decided to leave the dishes for later. Most of them had been cleaned already. Alright, let's go then. Don't want to disappoint him. And then a few seconds of high-speed racing. The three arrived back at the camp and regrouped the others. Tails seemed to be the most excited out of everyone. Sonic,
Okay.
you'll try
Boom.
to slow
There we
down
go.
for the rest of us, won't you?
Yeah.
He
So
said
that part's
playfully.
always. Oh.
Sonic agreed, too, with a wide smile, hardly noticing that the rest
Yeah. Just
of the
an A.
group had started walking off.
Okay.
into the
Last said
brush.
actually.
Wait up, guys! Tails cried out before
Generation
he ran
is
in the
so
direction.
short. Thank God for thank God
Not
for the
anyone
Shadow campaign. I hope
and to
it's
complain
like
about
at
hiking
least
in the wilderness.
as
They
long
had
as
already begun the
Generations.
journey and were quite far from
This
the
game
camp.
is pretty small. All things
The
considered.
wonderful sights and sounds of the area quickly ended any doubt of how interesting this would be.
Also, another say that
Besides,
Shadow actually did.
nice to talk with everyone there. To crack some jokes or pick on each other on almost anything. Well, except for Knuckles. He took everything way too seriously.
And there. Oh yeah, for sure. I think this is the stage that mostly shows
He
how
was
like,
looking happy as always,
improves the life.
ranting alongside Shadow and clinging to
Like, I
his
think it's
arm
a
with
little
a
too
wide,
much.
childish
I
smile on
mean,
her
you
face.
know, does this new version have RTX?
Shadow smiled
It is not
awkwardly and allowed her to
RTX,
continue.
but it is Hedgehog Engine
Asking
2, and like
her
Hedgehog
how
Engine
she
2
had
does
so
like
far.
really push
And the
those colors, private colors.
He
you know?
answered him politely in a
Like,
very
I feel like
sing-song
all
tone.
things considered, Forces is
Obviously,
still like
it
a
would be
very
accompanied
good
by
looking game, and I
Hedgehog.
think because of that, it's
Meanwhile,
the lighting
Tails
is
is
like
looking
lighting.
around in the
I think
air,
that's like
looking
the
through a
biggest
pair of binoculars,
like thing about the Hedgehog
searching for
Engine 2
something
compared to the
interesting
original
to
one.
explore. You find anything major? Say something, little
Yeah.
buddy, Sonic
That-
yelled up to him. One wouldn't expect Rouge to have been one for this kind of entertainment, but it seems as though she'd become used to being out in the elements. In fact, she was the only one who had brought specific clothing for the event. It was good news for her in any case. Everyone knew it would have been impossible for her to do anything up there, wearing her usual knee-high boots. There was plenty to see out there. Most of the time, the whole lot of them were far too busy evading enemies to enjoy
Oh my
their
God,
surroundings.
almost.
Sonic had a hard time remembering anything about the places he had been.
Dude, again, I
No,
mentioned it like again, but
Found or near to
Light Speed Dash
Can't
in
really
free,
I
such a
remember
game
him
changer.
much more than a bore going by. Not that it mattered to him much, he was enjoying the nice change of pace,
There we go.
along with the occasional lusty spurt from Shadow. Hopefully no one but himself was noticing. Later that day, they returned back where they had come. Sonic was sent and finished his job, for which he had gotten a rough hit.
Oh my God, I almost sneezed. Sorry,
He
Chad.
paid for not having done it sooner. He left reluctantly to do his job, and Shadow stayed behind for a moment. Something was tugging and screaming for attention in
okay.
the back of his mind.
I
Although
do not
up to
think
this
that's how
point, he
original
chose
played.
not to mention
In
the
original, I would have launched this
Shadow
guy.
pushed the thought from his mind momentarily and snuck away to catch it with the Azure Hedgehog.
Oh, no.
Sonic must
Well,
have been
I'm
taking
fine,
his
I'm
time
fine,
going
I'm
up
fine,
there,
right?
buying as much time as he could before having
Don't
to
I?
do dish
Woohoo!
work again.
Brim, brim,
Because when Shadow had caught up to him, he was a little more than halfway to his destination.
and that's
Sonic's ears bent backwards
that's
as
the
he
stage.
heard the emoji footsteps before his body reacted when he turned around as well. There he was, as always with a sly, most secretive smile on his face, sitting back at his camera.
Next up,
Hey,
Rooster
Sonic, I was
Run.
thinking about something along the hike trail.
I've been
Where's
worried
the
about
pink
posting
hedgehog
colors
anyway?
no matter what you're
Oh
thinking of this
man,
one.
Sonic
Honestly,
Run. Why'd you have to
I'm
remind me?
really liking it because
Shadow's
it's like
smirked
really
his
close
reaction.
to original.
Not
Like,
really
aside
sure what he
from,
meant by that
it
comment.
Like, has some
Maybe he was
improvement in
helping
the
his
lighting
mom
and
early
some
morning, but
gameplay
before the
changes,
trip,
like for
whatever,
example, Shadow
then she stayed
and
behind.
Lightspeed
But
Dash, anything.
be over here
It doesn't
tomorrow.
need like
Maybe
special rings. Aside from
Well, I
that,
didn't
it's
very
pretty
pleased at all.
faithful.
I don't
You
know
know,
that's why too.
I'm really
The
happy.
girl will be all over
You know, like
throughout the rest of the vacation once she showed up.
you keep the original very faithful, and
I
then you can go
suppose
crazy with
that
with all the
means no
stuff.
more
I think
Shadow
that's
Love.
something like
Shadow
Trivial
Ring.
also does.
Not that it really
Also
matters
did
much
with,
to him.
Tune Down the Love.
The
I
first
think
thing
that's
we
my
lose could have
favorite kind
gotten
of
caught at the moment, though.
remake that
It
feel
didn't feel like
fake.
someone felt the same way. Well,
Like you keep everything
said,
the
sounds
same,
disappointing.
maybe add a
You're right,
little
though.
here and
No one
there,
likes to see
but
anyways.
otherwise
I
just
gotta-
immense.
I gotta go get those dishes.
Because
See
I
you back
love
over
the
there.
same game.
Shadow nodded
And
and
then
turned
you
back.
add the content. Now I
Preparing
can't show
just
the
in time
content. I
to
did play it
catch
a little bit. I think
another
this
picture of
still
Nash
has
Super
like
Knuckles.
the first level.
I
with
swear I didn't
police,
touch your lotion.
and
That fucker needs to touch
It's
lotion,
okay.
excuse me.
like honestly a little bit. What I say in terms of level design, kinda compared to
Just as Sonic in
Frontiers,
this
Hyperspace.
Dreams
You
from
know,
the vanilla and
I
indie
know it
rose
doesn't
cut up
sound good, but
the meat
trust me,
put in
it's
the tank.
actually
Although
really
he
fine.
had it
I don't think it reaches like Generations level, but
That's
then again,
true.
there was like the new additions. Generation is the main
Not an hour after finishing his chore, both arrived with a basket full of picnic foods and other tasty treats. A lot of Amy was there. Sonic loves picnic food. He seemed
But I mean, the
genuinely
fact
happy
that
to
you
see
can
everyone.
even play
In
a
fact,
Shadow in the
her
normal
first
season,
minutes
that's, like,
walking around
good,
hugging everyone, including Shadow.
honestly.
The Black Hedgehog didn't seem thrilled about it.
Like after
He accepted
courses,
when
I
he
was like,
inside to let
dude,
her.
why would they add like
Anyway,
other costumes or more
he
characters
did
to
so,
play the same
however.
as Sonic?
Sonic's
Other
eye
games.
lost.
And you know, I didn't say
He
that you started
still
to
paid
realize
it up
that.
for this.
Now, you know, some people
He
like
did,
kind of
however,
mix with the
a
digital
hug from
deluxe
Vanilla
and
more
stickles.
enthusiastically.
You know, with the
Sonic
digital
squirmed
deluxe,
his
the
shook
back
his
people
head as
like, oh, we
previously
don't really
talking
want
about
Sega to do
how nice
costumes
Shadow had
anymore.
been turned all the
I don't
time.
know, I feel like I
Really?
like costumes.
Vanilla's
Now,
gonna giggle.
Shadow,
I will never
I know
guess.
Shadow
That's
comes
okay.
with the
Sure,
game
the
if you
other
buy
people
the
Shadow
game. I think if you
Causing
pre-order
the
it,
poor hedgehog to
you
turn
unlock
red.
Shadow from the beginning, or else you have to play the Shadow mode,
Much the
and then
game's
you can
much
play
Sonic
the
system,
main
eh?
story.
Taking his turn to
How it's
receive Amy's
how like
affection.
Superstars did.
She leaped into his arms and told him how she missed
But
being away from
honestly, I
him.
would take some
It's on,
other
so forth.
characters.
He smiled nervously, telling her
Again,
he
maybe
wished she had showed up
Sonic
sooner.
can get some
Maybe it was a
skills,
lie,
maybe one
but
race
he
of
didn't want her to
Superstars.
feel like he hated her or anything. Tails rushed over to them and pleaded for Sonic
Because
to go
honestly,
swim
they
with
can go
him.
crazy.
Alright,
They
Sonic
could
said.
go that
I let you get away.
Shadow
Too
from
much,
the
buddy.
Sonic Shadow art,
Somehow
or
he was thanking
that
Tails
Shadow
and asked
Vampire.
who he did.
Although
As
we
soon
would
as they were out of earshot, he thanked
you need
Tails.
to
Come on,
perfectly do
Sonic.
that.
Tails quick.
Like
I knew she was probably
Generation has like a
annoying
lot of
you again.
other characters in it. They can easily like add those as well.
They secretly laughed about it for
Yeah,
a
Sonic
moment,
and Exvio, I think
and then
Exvio would
decided to get
perfectly
back to what they had agreed to.
this. You know, I think
Shadow had gone into his tent to
whole
search
story.
through his belongings, as few belongings he owned.
You can put Blaze.
But how morning, the obnoxiously cute pink hedgehog peeked her hand into his den. "Hello, Shadow," she said cheerfully. The sudden intrusion of Pig caused Shadow to leap up with her eyes, hitting his hand on top.
Hope they do.
He his
choose
hand on the
Red
little
Velvet
man,
Outside,
only a
because
few
I know
inches
people don't
above
like
his
it.
head.
Like to me, it's not really that bad, but yeah, I can see some.
Ow! He grumbled quietly, turning to face the confused expression of the other hedgehog. "What do you want?" he asked. Sounded slightly annoyed.
Oh, yeah,
He
forgot
twitched
about
a
the-
little
yeah, forgot about
and
that.
watched as
No,
she crawled in.
they also made it
Hey,
like
what do you-
Unleash. You
you
got
think you're doing,
your
woman?
stomp cast momentum.
Damn! He snarled as she sat next to him. She smiled and looked at him with large eyes, looking like she was about to ask him a favor. He hated it when a woman asked him for anything. Face Shadow? Shadow, you've probably been around Sonic a lot. Did you mention me? She asked, swooning a little. Shadow's eye twitched. What? He asked with a very gruff voice. Don't be silly, Shadow, she said with a cute smile. He had to have said something to you. He was looking at him with apparent excitement. Shadow closed his eyes across his arms. Sonic doesn't talk about women. Amy looked at him, slightly confused. None? She asked. Shadow shook his head, hoping his answer might be no satisfier. Oh, I see. I knew it, Amy said quietly. Shadow looked at her, slightly confused. My poor Sonic has shut himself out, she frowned. He probably has had his heart broken by another woman before. Shadow's jaw dropped, a trickle of sweat falling down the side
The
of
delay
his head.
here?
Could she really be serious?
Oh,
He
wait.
watched
Nah.
her, noticing her sparkling eyes as she
Oh, they
clasped
did keep
her hands
it.
together. I'm going to
Oh,
be
that's
one
so
to men.
nice of
You're
them.
hard,
They
my
kept a little
Sonic.
glitch. So yeah,
Shadow's
as
eye
you know,
twitched.
you
Hers
know,
instinct
you
from
can
all of
keep
Sonic.
the rocket.
I'll go away.
Keep
Amy
the
looked at him
rocket
with a
here,
smile,
and then
not in
use it
agreement. She
later
kept
in the
him and
stage.
pet the top of his head affectionately, then bounded out of the tent. With a sigh of
Yeah,
relief,
you can
Shadow
then
reached
use
his
it
duffel
here.
bag and pulled
And you
out
get,
a
like,
shiny
another
emerald,
stone
one
rocket.
blue in color. He always carried one around in case it was needed. Granted, he preferred the green one. This was the first one he came across. Although this one reminded him of Sonic's brilliantly colored pelt.
There we go.
The more he thought about it, the more he thought it became. He quickly reached over to the open with his head and sipped it shut, hoping to have a few moments alone before anyone came to bother him again. Within a few seconds, he was back to twirling the emerald in his hands, looking at it in his reflection.
There.
He
I know
decided
speedrunners can
he
use
was going to use Sonic as soon
rocket
as
over there,
possible,
but they patch it. Like
He
I
wanted
was
his
smashing
daughter to
the
have
buy
it.
button right there.
to admire
and
it,
It didn't work.
just as he was now, exactly as he was now.
You should
Shadow
probably
had
make it like
begun
colors
stroking
where like the
himself
eye
a minute
goes
into his
gray.
thoughts.
You
He was
cannot
breathing
use it.
heavily,
Use-
still holding on to the gem with his other hand. He no longer paid attention to the chatter outside, but instead got even more into his current activity. Seconds passed, and the emerald slid from his hand into the blanket underneath him. Oh, Sonic, I want you as my own. I want you as my own, he sighed in pleasure. Little did Shadow realize it, but Sonic had already begun to feel that he was Shadow's. In fact, he really couldn't keep his mind off his ruby-eyed counterpart.
There.
But why they found each other so alluring was beyond reason. There was nothing the same
No!
except maybe
I
the
missed
fact they were
the
hedgehogs. Maybe Sonic thought the areas of their persona that were lacking were complemented
There we
perfectly by each other. Yes, that had to be it. Although he was spending time with Tails at the moment, he still couldn't help thinking about him. Even as he was, Shadow was an impressive creature. No one really needed him to point out the fact that he was the ultimate life orb. You could tell if I look at him, his posture, the color of his eyes are fur, his composure in general. In spite of being frozen for 50 years of his life, his intelligence is seemingly unmatched and his manner of speech is surprisingly practiced. However, Sonic put it together. He always came up and said in the end, Shadow was one sexy animal. He wondered what he thought about him. Man, Tails, you got me again. Sonic chuckled. Tails is nearly impossible to be in a swimming game.
The reason why
First off, he could actually swim himself. Secondly, he could glide across the water if he spun his tail fast enough. Sonic couldn't do either unless he had a running start. He just sucked to the bottom of the lake if it got too deep. Sometimes the others would give him a hard time because after all these years saving the world, he's never conquered the art of swimming. After climbing out of the water, Sonic and Tails walked back onto the bank and shook off the water. That is until Amy came running at them with towels. Thanks, Amy, Tails said to her, wrapping around his body with a wide grin. Sonic took it from her and nodded gratefully.
Done.
She told him where she saw him in his tent.
He wasn't that bad. How much
talking
I
about
got?
Shadow. I guess he's the first person to ever really save
5
him, huh?
minutes stage, 4
That's
minutes
why this
stage.
one. I never thought of it that way.
Through my
You
time
heard
already
about that.
in
I know him.
games.
Sonic said, trying not to lose sight of his ears.
There.
He nodded in agreement. The word for Shadow, none of them were
Okay, and I think the final stage we're allowed to play, I
Makes
cannot
sense
go
that
past
about it,
the
just
exit
look at him.
room.
Thanks to Shadow,
Because
I still
they,
have you to hold
told
on to,
me
Sonic.
They don't want
Flinched
to
a little for the
really
remark.
to
Not
tell
sure
me that
what
they
to say to her.
actually are
She
up to
seemed a little
something
sad when
different.
she said it, but she was so obviously genuine with her statement that it made
But
Sonic
I
feel
don't know
sad
about
too.
the second part. You know what?
He knew she was in love with
I
him.
already fucked
He
up.
wasn't that dense. Maybe she knew he'd never pursue her,
There.
but he knew it would be 10 times more hurtful if she knew he had shared himself with someone else. Sonic nodded at the comment. Yeah, I mean, I guess we all have something to be grateful for. Chapter 6.
Can I hit it? Can I hit it? Can I hit it? Yes! Dude, I love the Egg Dragoon of Generation because there's so many different ways to hit him. Like here, I also know you can hit him if you're like good enough. Pick up a cake. Again, the effects look crazy. That's Hedgehog Engine 2 for you. That's what 10 years does to a motherfucker.
Alright, eating break is over. Thank you for waiting. There are few people in the world that could capture Shadow's amazement as much as Amy Rose. He didn't know if she held any secret attributes for the rest of them, but all he knew is that she seemed to be everywhere, working around the corner and seemingly impossible to be rid of. For the last few hours, he had been trying to have some quiet time with Sonic, but with her around, the chance of that happening was nearly impossible. Sonic didn't really know what to do about her either. She climbed
a little bit of popping,
and
you know.
brushed back his clothes
I mean,
lovingly.
I wish
Not-
they like fixed that from Sonic Frontiers, but I
Not
guess
with
popping
the
is part of the series now.
Attention from a long time.
You know,
But
it's
she
early
did
period.
nonetheless.
I won't be too mad.
After putting up with so much of the process funny, Sonic jumped away and said he had to
my God,
run
I'm
off
not-
lunch.
I'm at the game.
Amy frowned a little as he took off into the forest and decided she couldn't chase after him right away. She didn't want to get lost or anything. Amy wasn't the only one who saw that
Okay,
he had
can we
left.
get the final hit here?
Shadow and Sonic weren't exactly known for wasting time with anything they did. Sonic wasn't even aware that he had
There
been
we
followed. Not much that it mattered. He was still
Oh, still got one?
enjoying the fact that Shadow had come from nowhere and was now purring into his neck. And telling him what he had experienced earlier that day, it was flattering in its own way. Knowing Shadow could have behaved himself in his absence. The brilliantly colored emeralds he had used to Chaos control his way over to Sonic and Gloom and Shadow's hand.
There.
As desirable as those gems were throughout his adventures,
Ooh.
right now it didn't seem nearly as tempting to
Okay, I
take
think
as his blue-eyed
I
lover.
did make.
Sonic pushed
Oh, there we go.
gently on his chest
Yes.
until his back was up against a tree, smirking devilishly at him. You have to go and
Oh
tell
yeah, it is possible.
that
Yeah, they gave it an.
Shadow, he purred.
There we go.
far.
Ezra.
Shadow hadn't protested to his actions. In fact, he looked like he
I
rather
think that's
enjoyed that
everything we
Sonic.
can show
having
as
a
of now.
rash move.
So far, honestly,
Shadow-
loving it. Like
His arms
the
around
changes that they
Sonic's
made,
neck.
I think they're for the better, honestly.
War as they made
Like the
out
light
with
speed
each other.
dash, the lightning, they're good, but it's still like the
making
same
a general
order,
ruckus
game.
moment runs.
you know.
The blue hero
Like
had
I
him
would
exactly where
actually
he
like
wanted him. In the
really
beginning,
recommend this.
and the
So
blue under his
for
scalp.
I think
He may have
when
gotten
dropping
him by
later
surprise
this
last
year, I
time, and
don't think I
now
can reveal the release date.
turn.
You told me, but I cannot do that.
all this stuff
So
had
yeah,
a solo
honestly,
experience
Pretty good.
got him in the
I
mood.
think that we had a great
First to do a cover
chance all
for
together
Lord
to
willingly.
experience some of Sonic,
Sonic
Sonic
wasn't
Shadow
the most
Generations.
practice when it came
So
to
you know what? As a
seduction, but
little
it came
treat,
natural enough
if you
once
told me
the
I
scene got
can
heated up.
show
Shadow was
some,
enjoying every
I can
second
give
of
you a
the
little
attention,
sneak peek
especially
before we
when
go.
Sonic's hands wandered around his lower body.
If I go here,
Both hurt quietly to
have
his
a
mouth
Sonic
as
fight.
their tongue and quietly bade the other for
They
greater
didn't even
relief.
change the dialogue.
Greater body language alone.
There is
Shadow pressed
Sonic rival battle.
his body right up against Sonic's, wondering if maybe he'd take
But
that
I
as
cannot
it
play it.
was
I saw they told me I
He
cannot
did, of
play
course.
it.
Eyes narrowed seductively.
So yeah.
As he tore his
Hope
finger
they do it
on
on
the
these
air.
DLC stages. Oh,
Turn around,
you
Shadow.
should.
He said it a low whisper, like he decided she turn around. Shadow liked the
Actually,
idea
I cannot do
somehow.
it. I cannot do it.
You know, been immediate.
You know that we
By
need to
January
take
15th
us.
against Bard, he went out. I can't read. I can't read this anymore.
Okay.
That's getting my okay.
So I
Next
want,
part. That I didn't
I
have a
want to
warning
thank
that time. What the
everyone.
hell?
I think I want
the hell was
to
I
thank
supposed to know
everyone
about
for
that?
being on stream here
What
today
the hell?
for this exclusive preview of
Why
Sonic
is this-
X Shadow
Why is this
Generations.
2 chapters long? Excuse me. Why
I-
did Sega make me read this?
I think we all cooked here. I think thanks so much for watching the stream. Kirimont is still happening. Trust the
Oh,
process.
disgusting. What the hell?
And I
What?
think you should go read
That's how it is.
Weekend Outing from
Excuse me?
Dark Emo Girl.
There wasn't even anything good.
1999, you know?
They just ended it on a sex
Thank
scene.
you,
Excuse
Sega.
me?
Again, sponsor.
Why would I
hashtag
read
sponsor,
this?
hashtag ad,
You
you know?
Sega should sue themselves at this point. What the hell?
No! Get yourself!
What is this?